All right, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to episode 41 of the Faith and Whatever podcast. We are excited to be with you again. 41, dude. We're almost to 52, which means we've been almost doing this for a year. Thank you so much for kind of just doing this journey with us so far. It's been fun. We've got more stuff in the works for 2017. Going to be a big year. We're really excited. So this week, we are talking about weed and all things Mary Jane, Mary Joanna. How many names are there?
There's quite a few.
Yeah. Chris, do you know any?
No.
Mary Jane, weed, Kush,
Bud,
marijuana, Satan's pastime,
Jazz cigarettes.
jazz. So anyway, it just passed in California this month, and it's also kind of starting to become a little bit bigger as far as the states are at. So we're at basically the entire West Coast now. Is good.
It's like 9 states, right?
Yeah, and something like that. Denver is in there.
You mean Colorado?
Denver is kind of the whole state of Colorado. So
Not really.
Well, you've never been anywhere else besides Denver.
That's not true.
Where have you been?
All over.
That's not true.
Beaver Creek, Aspen,
Dude,
Salida, Canyon City.
It must be nice to be rich and white.
It's my privilege. It allows me to go to Colorado.
That's actually probably true. So what should we do about it as people who work in the church? This is an interesting conversation because a lot of people that I know who are in the church and out of the church smoke weed. And it's not an ethical issue. It's not an abuse issue. It's a moderation issue. And so now...
See, I don't know anyone, so that doesn't help me answer the question.
Okay, well, we're going to look at it from this perspective today. So Christian participation in the Mary Jane game. I think it's pretty obvious that for us as pastors, we wouldn't, just because it's even if it's legal, it's a stumbling block undoubtedly for some people in the community that we serve. So that's a pretty easy answer as far as I'm concerned.
We work with students, and they're going to be asking us those kinds of questions.
Right. And so the Adam Ruins Everything. Have you seen that video? Okay, so he talks about the kind of the history of marijuana and its development, and he basically ends up pointing out, and his summation of the discussion is that if you're over 25, your brain's fully developed, and you participate in moderation, it's not a big deal there for you physiologically speaking. Okay. But that developmental period from 12 to 25, when your frontal lobe is still developing, you're still learning how to make crucial decisions and dealing with all of that stuff. He actually seems to kind of advertise against it. So first of all, starting with the legality of the age, 21. That's not so bad to me to hear that idea. I think that's a solid age as far as taking it on a national level. So good, bad. Just what are your initial thoughts of hearing this being legal now?
I mean, I have some worries. A lot of the students that I work with, even my peers, I see this transition from not smoking pot to smoking pot, and then thinking that kind of like answers a lot of the issues they have in the world. It kind of becomes their meaning of life, their answer to why they feel so sad all the time, why they feel alone. They find other people who do it, and they congregate, or the idea of the unique society and subculture of smoking pot. Then they get behind it in other ways, as it's the answer to many of life's problems. And I think it becomes like this false god in some sense, because it kind of messes with your, at least for a temporary time, your view of reality a little bit. I think it has a chance to kind of get in the way of our understanding of who God is and how important that thing should be.
Okay. Chris, what do you think? Just on initial reports that it's now legal, what do you...
I think...
big deal, not a big deal?
Religious aspects aside, I think it's just like alcohol.
Okay.
Really,
Can you elaborate a little bit?
It alters your mind or whatever is always the argument against it from the church. But so does alcohol. So does caffeine to a lesser extent. And yeah, I think if religiously, if you think alcohol is okay in moderation, then I think you have a hard time making an argument against marijuana in moderation.
And so this is where I agree with you. I think this is really interesting in this generation, largely because the biggest thing that people I know who are outside of the church, and one of their biggest critiques against the church, is just this issue gets raised a lot, not because it's weed itself, but because it's a consistency issue, right? It's this idea of saying one thing for one thing and not being okay with it for the other.
Yeah, but I think there's some validity in that. I mean, I drink beer. And I have one or two, and I can't remember the last time I had more than two. So therefore, I can't remember the last time that I felt the effects of alcohol, other than just the most slight, minute, kind of suppressive feeling that alcohol gives you, let alone being full on drunk. I can't even remember the last time I did that.
Right, and so that kind of makes you an abnormality, though, right? And it kind of makes you
not
more
in
of an
ministry,
exception
I
to
would
the
think,
rule.
or not in my
Sure.
peers of born again Christians.
Yeah, and so my aim is to take this a little bit wider than the pastoral sect, because I think for the most part, most of the pastors I know don't drink, not because they don't like it, but because of the desire to not put any potential stumbling block in the way of people, which is it's fine, whatever. It's a freedom.
Clearly
I think
don't
you're
listen
again.
to all the pastor
to
drinking
Paul.
beers. All the like every podcast about pastor drinking beer.
All three of them. So in the general broader sense, though, in terms of Christianity, the idea of being able to take or participate in some type of session that either helps you go to sleep or enough to calm you down, make you tired, like it's even the concept of taking the edge off, right? You don't have to be drunk to quote unquote take the edge off for alcohol, right? All it takes is two.
Correct.
There,
right.
and you can feel a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more at ease there. So yeah, I would, Chris, tend to stand in agreement with you in this discussion, largely because it has the ability to function in the same way, right? In terms of being able to allow you to relax, allow you to do all that stuff.
Yeah, but how often do you encourage drinking for that purpose?
Yeah.
Would you encourage someone to get drunk if it said that they said it made them feel better and happy about it?
No. We're not.
Isn't that what all advertising is?
And
Every beer commercial is like a party, right?
Yeah, or buy this thing and then you'll feel better about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm not arguing for that sense. I think the important thing is understanding the concept of moderation in there.
Right.
So I would never argue for, and to be honest, I don't smoke weed, so I don't know what moderation is for
Right.
weed, and so that's hard for me to It's hard for me to comment on its overall morality in the discussion, mainly just because I think that I would assume you can have some type of meeting in the middle there, in the same way that you can with alcohol there. So it's harder for me to find a time of when you would use it other than to go to sleep, just in the sense that like it doesn't pair well with dinner like a beer would.
Well, there's obvious medical benefits as well.
Yeah, and so that's the other thing. So yeah, we can touch on that super fast. The medical stuff, all for it. If it helps people feel better, if it actually does its job, if it actually contributes to growth, right? I've seen a lot of stuff on cannabis oil helping stop seizures and that kind of thing. So if that's the reality,
So here's a question. Both Josh and I participate on this Facebook group called Everyday Youth Pastors, and someone asked this question. I think they were in a state that legalized it, maybe California, and people had similar responses. Hey, it's as long as you're 21, it's okay, it's legal now. Then someone said, yeah, but like, where do I draw the line with those participating in ministry? Like, do I require all of my college age, leaders who lead junior high and high school groups to not smoke pot?
Yeah, so, and that's the good question. Does legal equal ethical is the thing, and to which I would say no, for sure not. Just simply, legal does not necessarily mean ethical. They're not, mutually inclusive. So I would and probably still will advertise against it there. I don't think it's okay on a personal level. And in fact, I was talking about this in our staff meeting, right? We're going to get ready to probably update our requirements for helping that you just don't participate in it. Again, not necessarily because I think it's bad if you're outside of leadership there, or if you can handle that in moderation, because I don't know that I necessarily do. But I don't ever want to sound like I'm pro for it, I think, because that becomes dangerous to me, especially in the field of working with students there.
Do you think you run into an issue when it becomes as accepted, at least in our state, as almost like this rite of passage, like, hey, I'm 21, so I'm going to try it. and then all of a sudden you're telling your leaders like, you can't do it or you can't be a leader. You're going to run into an issue with just being unrealistic expectations on young adults.
Yeah, and so I'll have to kind of weather that storm as I get there, right?
Right.
So I don't know that I can kind of do something hard and fast for that right now. What about for you?
No, that's a valid point. I mean, we're going to struggle a little bit against that, because I can see doing nothing and having students kind of wonder what my position is on it, and I don't necessarily think that's the best way to go.
Yeah,
about it.
you don't ever want to leave something like that
But I
unanswered.
do know that we're going to have to wait, because we're going to have to see the general Christian church response, and also what's appropriate, because what if a student or a leader, a college leader, says they use it, but they use it in moderation, slight maybe medical reason, and they're a great leader, very responsible, very good leader student, and you're going to disqualify them because they're doing something
Yeah,
illegal.
and so that's why for me, I think the ultimate conversation will be, dependent upon a person-to-person scenario and situation. As a rule of thumb, for now, for the foreseeable future, no, not okay.
I just want to know what Bilo is going to do. That's all I want to know.
You're not going to be a Christian anymore if you go there.
Can you imagine the contract to go to that school?
Yeah, I mean, it's already pretty cool.
So are you worried about like losing a sponsorship?
Yeah.
Don't be.
So
It's really cool to have contracts, guys.
So I don't know. But to me, this seems like another thing that's, I'm interested to see the church's response.
It's
to
fascinating,
this,
isn't it?
because we're either gonna get ahead of the curve, or we're gonna be behind the 8 ball.
The church is really good about being ahead of the curve.
So I'm trying to be positive.
Check out this cool Christian ska music that just came out.
Christian ska is the only good Christian anything.
It's coming back.
That's true.
So I don't know, if you're a Christian, you think it's okay or you don't think it's okay, let us know in the comments below. Be sure to share this video, like and subscribe to our channel. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can find me at Josh_Carmen. James is at JamesYile. Chris is at Marion Ranch, and Garrett is at TStudentLife. And you can find us at faithandwhatever.com. Thanks so much for stopping by.
See ya.